Coming to you from behind the lines in Washington State, local and national talk, news, and opinions. This is the Behind the Line podcast. So the joke of law and justice here in Seattle continues this week. It's a couple different things. City Council voting on law enforcement funding, which I'll get to in a minute, but also in this case of a guy from the Seattle area who was struck and killed by a vehicle while he was jogging back in July, and cops have been looking for the suspect. Turns out it was a 15-year-old girl from SeaTac who was driving a relative's Toyota Camry without permission and decided to scare and bump the jogger she saw running on the side of the road. The girl and her 14-year-old passenger later laughed about the way the man flew through the air when she hit him. A relative heard her bragging and laughing about this and turned her in and, advised the police who she was, and then she turned herself in 7 weeks after the fact. She was charged with second-degree felony murder and felony hit and run, but she's only being charged as a juvenile. It's insane that you would charge somebody like this who not only stole a car, but purposefully killed somebody and left him to die on the side of the road because she thought it would be funny to bump him. This is just the ongoing BS in Seattle with prosecutors not prosecuting cases, and this policy that Seattle has of not wanting any juveniles in jail for anything, even when it comes to rape and murder. It just baffles. You know, this girl had no criminal history, okay. But you've got to take into account where her mind was and the deviousness of this crime. It doesn't really matter if she has no criminal history. She needs to be put away. And more than likely, she's looking at maybe 5 or 6 years for murdering this man who was doing nothing but going for a run and who had kids and was married. It's just the ongoing story of injustice for victims in Seattle and King County, where politicians are not prosecuting crimes, and I call them politicians because that's all they are. The county prosecutor, the city prosecutor, they're nothing but hack politicians who, for whatever reason, refuse to do their jobs. And the people are paying the price. Crime is skyrocketing around here. There's more shootings and murders than ever before. We have less cops on the streets than ever before because of the city council, the mayor, and these prosecutors. And it's just sad that I guess the people in this area are not going to wake up until it hits home and something happens to them personally and they realize how ridiculous this is. It's not like this in other parts of the country. It's just these big blue cities that seem to favor criminals over the tax-paying, hard-working citizens that are just trying to mind their own business and go about their day. In other related news, the City Council voted this week not to increase funding for Seattle PD, to hire more officers. They did so graciously allow the department to keep its budget where it currently is instead of cutting it more, which many crazy activists in this area would like to see the police department funding cut by half. But, it's nuts to me that these council members can see, unless they don't watch the news, but I assume they do, see this massive increase in every kind of crime you can think of around here. And murders and assaults and robberies and rape and drug use and stolen vehicles. All this stuff going through the roof. Shootings. There's multiple shootings every week. And yet they choose to not give the police department money to put more officers on the streets, even though they have a record low number of officers, lower than what they've ever had. It befuddles the mind. They are into all these alternatives where they go and they want to talk to criminals about it, or pay criminals not to shoot people. This stuff is straight out of the insane asylum. It doesn't work. You want to put a stop to crime, you put more officers on the street. If the criminals know there's officers in the area, they won't probably commit the crimes. But, you're talking about a bunch of people who don't really know anything about law enforcement. They've just got their little funny utopian ideas of how things should be, and if they just talk about it and are nice to people, that somehow that's going to change things or make this stuff stop. And really, the criminals are just taking advantage of the situation and their stupidity to further their agenda and their crimes. And like I said before, the tax-paying, hard-working people are the ones paying the price. People that just want to go about their day and do what they need to do without being robbed or assaulted or whatever. It's getting harder and harder to do around here. It's not safe to walk around the streets of downtown just about anywhere. There's anything could happen anywhere, and you've got crazy people and criminals everywhere. But this will continue, and I'm sure it's going to get worse. There's just going to be more crime and more violence until these politicians and pretend prosecutors decide to do their jobs. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Behind the Line podcast. I hope you will subscribe to the channel so you can get regular updates. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, I hope you will also like it, share it, and subscribe on YouTube as well. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Anchor, Spreaker. We're on various other podcast platforms. And you can find me on LinkedIn under John Washington. Again, thank you for listening. We appreciate your support.